Good morning, YouTube, and to everyone viewing my video this morning. I have to say today was a pretty good day. I just got out of a live feed where we were awaiting the sentence recommendation by the jury in the Tiffany Moss case in the state of Georgia. Last night, it looked like the jury wasn't unanimous in their sentence recommendation, but today they delivered their verdict and they recommended to the judge that the sentence would be death. I haven't always been a believer in the death penalty, but in some cases that are so heinous, it's the only answer back that we have. You know, this woman, Tiffany Moss, was one true evil monster. Over the course of many, many years, she tortured, she beat, and denied food to her stepdaughter, Tiffany Moss. Well, the jury answered her back today. I was watching the Scales of Justice feed last night as the prosecutor gave such horrific details into the life of little Amani. Towards the end of her closing argument, she stated, Amani's life mattered. Yes, it did matter. She was a little girl who at one point CPS did have an involvement in her case, but she was given back custody to her parents. I feel that she would still be alive today had they not made that decision to return her to her home. You know, when you look at the Chris Watts case, you're horrified at the way he disposed of his little girls. I know I was when I heard that 5-hour interview. You thought you were horrified in the way little A.J. Freund was beaten to death and then buried in a shallow grave. I thought I was horrified when a 2-month-old died of starvation at the hands of her mother. Her name was Ruth Ringer. But this rises to a whole new level of evil. An evil that had to be answered back. As I was watching the video feed coming from Scales of Justice, and thank you to them for covering it, I noticed that Tiffany Moss was not engaged in the closing arguments. She didn't even give one, and she was representing herself in a death penalty case. But the prosecutor said to the jury, Imani's life mattered. She told how this little girl, over years, was systematically tortured, beaten, and denied food. She once went to school where she thrived. Teachers stated that in the course of this trial. But the mother, stepmother I should say, decided to take her out of school and isolate her and stated that she was homeschooling her. No, she was isolating her because that's how much She hated this little girl. What did this little girl ever do to her? She had 2 other children with Amani's father, who is now serving life without parole in the death of little Amani. And she treated those 2 little children as her loving pride and joy gifts, while Amani suffered in a bedroom. You will hear, point by point by point, what she did. And then you will understand why the jury came back with the recommendation that the death penalty be the just verdict. Tiffany Moss will now be the sole woman on Georgia's death row. I don't know how her appeals process will work. Scott Reich, I'm sure, will cover that, and I will monitor it. He is a defense attorney out in the state of Colorado who often spoke of the legalities in the Chris Watts case. And I highly respect him, and I invite you to, look at his feeds and his take on this case. He pretty much said that this defendant, now convicted felon, or an abomination, I should say, was pretty stupid to act as her own attorney in a death penalty case. So I don't know exactly the legalities of any appeals process she might wish to bring up, but I will keep you in tune with that. Again, CPS failed a child in this case. This little girl would run away, and at one point the police found her. She was asleep underneath bushes, trying to escape that house of horrors. This little girl was even burned with hot scalding water. Yes, this is a new, higher level of evil. This is where we have to be the voices of the victims, especially children. When we hear of CPS involvement with cases, we must demand that they be vigilant so we don't hear of any more victims of horrific crimes. Last night, I cried hearing everything that little girl went through. May she rest in peace for all eternity. And I really want to praise the jury and thank them for having to sit through a sickening and horrific crime like this. All of us who hear of these cases, who can sit and talk about these cases from the safety and security of our homes, these juries who hear these cases, and especially this one, they had to look at every piece of evidence against Tiffany Moss. They had to know what brutality this little girl went through. They're the ones I'm thinking about right now, because they stepped up to the plate and they chose to be her voice. So thank you to the jury and the prosecutors who put on a flawless case against this monster. And again, let's all hope and wish that Amani rests in peace, because her life mattered. It mattered to all of us, because it is a reflection upon our society and how some children wind up dead. Please think about that today. Please think about little Amani. She didn't deserve this. She deserved to grow up like all of our children do, and to be happy, and to be loved, and not treated like this. At the bottom of my video, in the description box, I will be putting in the links to Scales of Justice, Scott Reich, and 11 Live, whose live chat I sat in this morning to hear the jury recommendation. And as always, click like, click subscribe, and hit the notification bell so I can bring you more cases. You know, for a budding true crime creator here on YouTube at the age of 60, there is no shortage of material out there, because crimes are being committed every day. And I choose to speak up for the victims in this case, and in all cases. So all of you, try to have a good day, and if you have children, love them, give them tons of kisses and hugs, because their little lives matter. And let them grow up to be happy children, teenagers, and adults. We need more kindness in our society, not more depravity. Again, thank you very, very much, and I wish you a good day.